Go nuts for him or her, go crazy, just don't be lazy. Welcome back, my lovers of the world. My name is Dasha, and as promised, I'll touch today the topic of rejection. So, this is what I'm claiming, and I'm definitely not claiming I'm right. It's just up for discussion as always. I believe and I claim that we're not giving each other enough time. That means time to get to know each other, or time in the sense of respect, patience, and so on. Also, we clearly fear rejection. At least I know I used to handle it really badly, and I'm still struggling with it. On that point, I would like to explore a bit as to why. Understanding is key, right? So, again, I'm just putting this into the room. It occurred to me recently that perhaps most of the times rejection has absolutely nothing to do with me. I said perhaps, and most of the times, obviously. Okay, say I meet a guy. We have a fantastic time. And then he suddenly retreats, rejects me as a woman and even as a person in his life. So I used to go nuts, thinking either I have done something wrong, or that I wasn't pretty enough, or maybe I came on too strong, or I was too easy in his mind, or something related to me. Sure, it could be that I simply wasn't his type. But usually the reason is that what I've told him about my vision of my future plans didn't fit into his. So when a guy says no, there's nothing I can do but to move on, right? It hurts. As I said, I used to go nuts over this, but these days I'm mainly numb. I just don't let myself feel much these days because chances are very high that I don't fit into a man's current plan. As simple as that. That he might not fit into mine, into my plans. A guy never thinks about that, funnily enough. So we girls have a good laugh about that, believe me. So how did I manage to change my strong negative reaction to rejections? To be honest, with the help of a couple of guys, a couple of men who were kind enough to give me some answers when I asked them what went wrong. And only that helped me understand and calm me down. So I understood there's actually nothing wrong with me as such. So what happened? Sometimes it was simply a case of him not being able to let a woman closer, so emotionally too distant. And he was even aware of that. And I can comfortably say I believe him because I know the guy for years and I know he hasn't had any longer relationships. So I guess that wasn't just an excuse. Let's take it seriously, right? And then again, a guy explained to me that he was afraid to get hurt if he lets me too close. He would be willing to, but obviously I was a person that seemed to move around a lot and might not stay in one place for too long. So I thought, okay, fair enough, makes sense, and I thought it was really interesting. So it was fantastic to finally understand that I'm not necessarily the cause of it, and the way I feel, obviously, it's just human the way I feel and nothing special really. So bottom line, we all fear rejection, and I guess we all think the fault is with us. We tend to take everything personally, but to be honest, it's really hard not to take rejection personally. Well, there you go. Okay, another fact, if I may. As human beings, we thrive on appreciation, on affirmation, on positive feedback. Call it what you want, it's all the same, basically. So let that sink in. Don't just say, yeah, that's obvious. Yes, it's obvious, but let that sink in. We all thrive on positive feedback. Why I'm saying this is, the question is, how much do we or did we actually get of it? So it means that if we didn't get that positive feedback when we were younger, our confidence would not build up, would be almost zero. We would develop a fear of approaching another person, and we would develop that fear of making mistakes, even though we all know or should know that we can only learn by making those so-called mistakes. So even though I could say now that the girls have been raised much more severely than boys, at the end of the day, I believe we both seem to have that same horrifying fear to be rejected or not to be good enough for someone we like. I'm just saying we're all sensitive. We're all in the same place. We're all expecting that the other person will give us a time of day. And yet no one does somehow. Girls are hoping for a more gentle approach by the guys, and yet they reject a guy almost cruelly in the bar. Or so my ex tells me these days. So anyway, point is, the women are expecting a lot of things. The boys are expecting probably also a lot of things. Neither wants to look stupid or get hurt or get rejected. So yet both want to be accepted for exactly who they are. Sounds really tricky. So we're talking about expectations and about what we want and yet want again. So not only do we want, but also everything needs to happen really quickly these days. On the internet, our picture is being judged within a second, and in person the guy has to say the right line right away or he's doomed, so to say. It all comes down to, it seems, a lot of pressure. And as far as I'm concerned, unnecessary pressure. I have a question for the younger generation. How do you guys perceive pleasure these days? Do you know how to enjoy, to really enjoy things? Why I ask is because what I see is that you never had the chance to learn to take your time and to do something and learn how gratifying real pleasure is that comes out of effort. So we get everything quickly now. The food, the video games, even sex seems to have to happen quickly or not at all. So the thing is, I don't think only the younger generation has to struggle with that. I really think that the older generations have been swept up in that craze of a fast life, of never-ending strong stimulations, and that's not the worst as far as I'm concerned. What worries me is the selfish attitude that has developed across all generations and both genders. And I'm not blaming anyone. Actually, I'm not blaming us here. Neither men, no women, no nothing. Not our parents or anything, really. I am blaming the media, clearly. But again, I'm not going to be ranting about that. We are all actually aware of it, but somehow forget about it at the same time. That's why I'm pointing it out right now. So I'm just saying, what happened with a little bit of patience? We should remind us of the values that we have and are so precious. So what happened to taking time to have coffee with a friend or enjoy preparing a proper meal? What happened to being polite and give the guy a chance to approach and prove himself that he's actually interested in you. Or actually, you guys, be a bit more patient with us girls. Pay us a couple of more compliments. And I know you need compliments as well. But believe me when I say women have been brought up with far less positive feedback than you have. And that's why we appear to be needy in your eyes. And I'm sorry for that, but we can't help ourselves. But you could help us greatly, by the way. So, that is where I'll leave you today, to think about it. What you can do for the person you like, instead of expecting what that person can do for you. And my question, can you actually see the person that is sitting across the table? Do you have actual interests in the partner you claim you love? Actually, can you forget about yourself for a minute? I mean, you have to, in a way, don't you, if you want to have a relationship. So, of course, there's the topic of being selfish in a healthy way. I did not forget about that, but that's a completely different subject. All I wanted to say today is, let's be more patient with each other, let's be more understanding, and obviously giving. So these are just my thoughts, and looks like I'm a person that likes to think outside of the box, outside of a system. And what makes it easier perhaps for me is because I grew up in two completely different systems, two completely different countries, politically and economically. So obviously I question absolutely everything. So see you next week. I'll prepare something exciting again to our favorite topic. And until then, and as always, go nuts for him or her, go crazy, just don't be lazy. Bye, see ya.